Well, scenes of relief and jubilation here at the White House after this very complicated prisoner swap happening around the world. But essentially, what it means for America is that Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, only recently basically found guilty of espionage and sentenced to 16 years. Paul Whelan, another person suspected of espionage, American dual citizen, also one other American citizen and a resident alien, a green card holder, all released as part of this very complicated deal. I've never seen the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, cry, but he did so at the podium at the White House. Such was his emotion. And he said that this is vintage Joe Biden, behind the scenes, pressing all these different heads of states, diplomats, for months on end so they could get this prisoner swap. Of course, let's listen to Joe Biden praising their return and also praising alliances.
This deal would not have been made possible without our allies. Germany, Poland, Slovenia, Norway, and Turkey, they all stepped up and they stood with us. They stood with us. And they made bold and brave decisions, released prisoners being held in their countries who were justifiably being held, and provided logistical support to get the Americans home.
And even though both Russia and the US are saying, look, this is not indicative of warming relations, especially when it comes to Ukraine and other aspects of their relationship, this is a deal that both seem to be very happy with. And of course, there's a political fallout too. The White House, for example, at no pains to spin the fact that Vice President and now the presumptive nominee of the Democratic ticket in November was very much involved behind the scenes in February at the Munich Security Conference, where she met in a sort of private meeting with a very small number of people, with the Chancellor Scholz from Germany. She met with others. They're also stressing this did not involve any direct contact between Joe Biden and President Vladimir Putin of Russia, but they are very excited to have these people home. And this, of course, politically is already starting to spin out here in the US, with the Republicans saying the only reason they were released is because Trump may be president and he's tougher, etc., etc. We'll let the politics play out. But for the families who are actually in the Oval Office when they got confirmation that their loved ones had arrived on so-called neutral territory in Turkey, was so relieved. And you can feel the emotion here at the White House, despite the politics. Nathan King, CGTN, Washington.
Now, President Vladimir Putin personally greeted the released Russians as they got off the plane in Moscow. There was also a red carpet and a guard of honor, procession of honor guards. With more reaction from Moscow, let's go to Dasha, Chernyshova.
26 people have been swapped in one of the largest ever prisoner exchange deals between Russia and Belarus and NATO countries, the US, Germany, Poland, Slovenia and Norway. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former US Marine Paul Whelan's names are on the list. The exchange took place at an Ankara airport in Turkey and was carried out with the assistance from Turkey's National Intelligence Organization. 2 minors are reported to be among the 10 Russians coming back home. A Russian national, Vadim Krasikov, who had been serving a life sentence in Germany for the 2019 murder of a Chechen dissident in Berlin Park, is expected to return to Russia, along with other Russians accused of espionage and cybercrimes in the West. The Turkish TV and radio service TRT World reports 13 prisoners will be relocated to Germany and 3 to the United States. Among the Germans returning home is Rika Kringer, who was sentenced to death in Belarus in July after being charged with terrorism and mercenary activities. Krieger was pardoned by the Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko this week. Moscow released several dissidents outlawed by the authorities and described as political prisoners by the opposition. Kremlin critic Ilya Yashin and Oleg Orlov, the former heads of the Nobel Prize-winning organization Memorial, both labeled foreign agents in Russia, and several former staffers from the Anti-Corruption Foundation of Russian Alexei Navalny labeled terrorists and extremists in Russia. Dasha, Chernyshova, CGTN, Moscow.